Not yeah. Something is coming. The choice to sit here to reflect, to explore, to experience, to realize, to develop. That choice is completely in my hands. Even if someone forced me to sit quietly, it's still in my hands. What I do inside while seated, the quality of this moment of reflection is completely in my hands. I could make a show of sitting in meditation, appearing to be very focused and quiet and disciplined. But I will know how I'm actually using this time to be sincere, to be honest, to be authentic. That's an inside job. That's up to me. And spirituality is all about the incognito. Although it promotes transparency, the actual effort is invisible. The thoughts I choose to think, the attitudes I hold, the vision I have, even the deepest effort, the consciousness I experience, all internal, all my responsibility. Show to prove myself and be disciplined on the outside, alone. Let me choose to improve myself. These disciplines of self-love and self-empowerment. Am I able to focus my mind on what I value most? Declutter my inner world of things that no longer serve my development. To concentrate. Do you know the difference between thinking something and experiencing it? Can I teach myself to bridge that gap? Or do I deceive myself? These are all things I'm constantly checking inside. The quality of what I'm doing not just the quantity. That's completely inherent responsibility. Shanti.
Om Shanti. Welcome, good evening to Interview with the Raj Yogi. In tonight's session is taking personal responsibility in an empowering way. So this is the topic. Well, I was feeling that today for the students of um, regular students of Raj Yoga, but it really felt like it has been for the last several weeks. And so just listening to the reflection in terms of really taking care of my inner world, regardless of what's happening, one of the things that came up for myself is, and I'm not sure what your thoughts are, that when it comes to a teacher or a coach being able to empower someone, what is the difference from Raj Yoga in terms of empowering versus there's a lot of amazing souls out there. We've heard powerful stories, powerful coaches. So lots of adversities that souls have gone through. What is it that makes this unique in terms of what does soul consciousness have to do with taking personal responsibility?
Om Shanti. If I'm comparing it to a physical endeavor, the only difference is it's not physical. But the principles actually are very similar. Um, Obviously, if we're talking about the body, then it might seem like some are physically disadvantaged, they have more to overcome. Um, but even on that level, it's very, very similar because we could say some are coming spiritually disadvantaged. They may, for example, live very physically far from a center, a BK center, or whatever discipline you're studying, so they're having to do it remotely. So they're not getting perhaps that support or of the gathering. So there's some spiritual disadvantages as well, but it doesn't matter whether it's physical or spiritual. Both of them are going to rely a great deal on, I think, self recognition. Even in a physical endeavor, I think it's still quite spiritual because it's going to be will and determination, all of these non physical attributes that keep one going. But a lot of self recognition, and this is where we come down to soul, because to recognize the self as a spiritual being, I begin to access capacities that I wasn't even remotely aware I had. But I need to have kind of a recognition of myself because that's what I'm going to honor. Today we had a very interesting conversation. It's on my mind a lot because I had come across a list of 10 principles. A senior student had done a very interesting class on something called Sadan, which is spiritual endeavor. And it talked about the 10 principles necessary. And whether it's physical, spiritual, emotional, mental, whatever level of well being one's pursuing, this first one I think is relevant in all. The first necessary principle or what needs to be present is self love, which is self recognition. I am pursuing certain disciplines, doing certain things because I am valuing something important to me. So I have to feel I'm important. I have to value the self. And then I really am disciplined about developing the self. So that goes across any endeavor, quite frankly. Just in the case of spirituality, I'm understanding the self to be a soul. So that's what I'm trying to do is spiritually develop myself. But again, I think in anything I'm doing, even emotional, mental, physical, it's going to come down to these non-physical attributes that are driving it. No one's at a disadvantage at that level. It really depends on whether I can recognize myself, have that respect and love for the self is critical in self empowerment.
Do you feel that even in both parallels, whether it's physical, spiritual, mental, sorry, it's not, parallels, there's just multiple levels, I suppose you can say, that there could still be a difference when we're talking about self love, or is it there that it could be sort of like a rebuttal. I'm trying to just go against, um, you know, whatever opposing forces I'm facing as a reaction. Um, is that always the case, or is there something that's deeper, like that there's a recognition of self in spite of something? Because oftentimes it's about proving something. Um, it seems like it'd be a different energy. I'm not sure if I'm really articulating that clearly.
Yes, that could happen in any of those aspects, from physical to spiritual. I could do it for the wrong reasons, if you will. One way I used to say, talk to myself about this, is even if I'm the only person on the planet doing this, I believe so deeply in when I'm pursuing something, not reacting against something, I'm moving towards something. And it really is independent, unconditional of anything. It's not a reaction to, it's not a resistance to, it's not opposing to. It's, again, this recognition of something inside that I want to really nurture and nourish. And I trust that is such a valuable use of my time, even if no one else thinks that's the case. I trust that's a very valuable use of my time, and it's recognition. The example that we often used, I know in the past, is this whole African animals thing, and the giraffe, who with that long neck has the capacity to recognize things far away and just starts to move in that direction because it can see very clearly there's a solution over there. Now, no one else can see what the giraffe is seeing. It's not in opposition to anyone. It's not rebelling to anyone. It's just clearly recognizing what's over there, and it starts to move. Others may not believe, others might. It doesn't matter. It's very clear to the giraffe. That's where the solution is. So again, I'm seeing, recognizing very clearly, in this case through a spiritual vision, recognizing very clearly who I am, what I'm capable of, what's going to make me happy, which is huge behind everything we do. What will make me happy is to honor what I see in myself. That's really important. And I think that goes for anyone who's honestly pursuing an endeavor, is I won't be happy unless I'm able to develop this capacity in myself.
One of the things, it's part of what you were sharing about in terms of the aspects of Raja Yoga, is that the study of me as a soul is that my value is eternal. Now, could that be something? Yes, I mean, in a way, I'm answering my own question, but it's just more about this reflection inside of when it's sort of very intellectual versus something that I've really taken on. So we learn, we hear, that my value is eternal, it's timeless. And if that's a very intellectual thing versus if I really, really, really take that on, like what do you feel, or have you seen it in, the original students or maybe in yourself? If I really took that on, how that helps me to take personal responsibility in that empowering way.
If it's just at the level of words, if it hasn't really penetrated into reality or an experience, then the moment a little bit of resistance or opposition comes along, I fall apart, if you will. I'm not able to continue. So I sometimes wonder, the first student of Raj Yoga, Brahma Baba, had this recognition of himself at a very deep level, the very high value of the self as a soul. And I wonder sometimes if all the opposition and resistance he faced from outside was really actually a gift to reinforce, that he deeply trusted what he was experiencing, even in the face of so much opposition. What seemed like it was a problem was actually feeding or reinforcing or strengthening that deep faith in himself, that it didn't shake even in the if it's only at the level of words or intellectual, it will shake the moment any louder voice comes along. So really having to check, has it gone into a deep level? Because then whatever happens, I won't start to blame things outside why I'm not able to continue. This is a problem. But it's like, actually, no, I've recognized that I'm really able to overcome any challenges. So even if they come, I experience them as gifts or a game rather than actually a challenge. And that's really self empowerment, taking that personal responsibility. The moment I see there's challenges, then it's almost like I'm blaming it. There is a problem here. You know, we've had this huge thing lately about being an embodiment of solutions. And what that means is you literally don't see things as problems. You really see everything as an opportunity. You know, as I have the capacity to be able to respond to this from this very deep sense of self, and even knowing the big one, that what is going on is something in some ways I have created. So that also affects how I choose to respond. So this is a very high level of personal responsibility. To understand I'm a soul isn't just that I'm a spiritual being, but it also means the story through time, you know, where I started, what happened, the karmas I've done, that everything that's coming along is perfect in the scope of my story through time. So that sense of personal responsibility even shifts as a soul, even shifts how I view what's happening around me.
Now, I don't mean this as an intellectual question, but when you hear that, just because law of karma is such a sensitive topic, and I have two parts of the question, but I'll ask this part first. But just because you mentioned it, you know, things are unfolding because of what I've created. Many can hear that and take that in a very disempowering way. So when you share about that, is there, again, I don't mean that by let's just try to find some, you know, some way to look at this in a better light, but like, is there, you know, just a certain inner stance of empowerment that helps me to see that I created something and not feel like there's a sense of self blame?
First, I'm really pleasantly surprised that I keep coming across souls who are actually very hungry to understand the law of karma and connect it to personal responsibility. They're actually very keen to take personal responsibility. And again, I wonder if events in the world are kind of nudging us in that direction. The feeling that, okay, less and less I can control what's going on around me. I have to learn how to have mastery of the self. But also, I think there's a timing to it, but also there's a useful sequence to it to first spend a little bit of time. Yes, understanding I'm a soul, understanding that things are driven by spiritual principles, sort of getting that spiritual foundation in place. And the idea, it's not the hearing about the law of karma, to realize it's not hearing about the law of karma that makes us feel disempowered. We actually feel very disempowered before we hear the law of karma. It's kind of this subconscious gnawing inside that I have been up to things that I'm not particularly proud of, and I'm not really ready to face that yet. So I'd rather look about what's wrong outside or what needs to be changed outside. When there is deep faith in the self, so we want to start work first with understanding myself as a soul and my true nature. When there's that deep faith in the self, a very powerful experience of myself, then I look at this idea of karma and law of karma as actually very empowering. It's going to help me to feel that sense of mastery. To think that everything going around outside me has nothing to do with me, that I am just a victim of circumstances, that's disempowering. But to know that, I have been contributing, I have been involved in developing what's going on around me, that means that I can have creative input in how my life unfolds. So it's very empowering.
The second layer of this question, maybe a part of it you've actually answered, was that you are sharing, you know, have to really be in a certain inner position in terms of how I see things, how diversities come. And you said that you start to see opportunities versus challenges. And I've actually asked this in regular class in Raja Yoga. Do you sort of need self respect to be able to get self respect? Because lately I've been thinking so much about Raja Yoga is actually all about restoring your self worth and self respect. And so, I had that question, and it seems like as you need some sense of self respect to be able to get your self respect again. So, how on earth does that work?
I think I've shared before that this fitness studio that we work at, when it first started, um, everyone was very, very young, so very energetic, and the owner had just come out of very, very elite level of competition, so extremely fit. And the classes that were given at that time, and she led many of them, they were at such a high level of fitness. So the joke in the city at that time was, usually one goes into a gym in order to get in shape. But for this particular gym, you need to be in really good shape in order to go to that gym to get in shape. And, it took everything. I remember in those days, I think I was in other studios at that time, but I went to visit one, and I remember feeling quite nervous. I mean, I was a fitness instructor and I felt I was in shape, but I was very nervous to walk in there because I knew about the reputation. And, this idea, okay, I need to be in shape in order to go there to get in shape. It seems very strange, but yes, to embark on a path, and I think this is a hallmark of Raj Yoga, is about personal responsibility. And to be very, very in participating and contributing to my own self development, not thinking that some facilities or some person is going to do this for me, or if I'm around certain things, it will be better. It's completely, totally in my hands. Whatever effort I put in, that will determine the results. And that's quite frankly the way it should be. um, so I love it for that reason. But I need to have the courage or the perseverance or the strength to be able to take that on. I need to really believe in myself. And is that just a happenstance thing? Today I was working with some clients and they had to do some balance work, and I'm watching them and I'm saying, are you trying to balance just by luck, hoping that things work out well as your leg, or are you actually activating certain things so that it's not just, oh, maybe I'll get lucky and stay upright, but actually I can methodically go about this and have success. So there is a method to go about being able to embark on this journey towards self development or self respect. And yes, you need to have a certain attitude towards yourself to go. If you want to call it self respect, you can, but have a very clear sense about the self. I often think of it as, very often people embark on a change because they think something's wrong. We need to change things. This isn't right. We need to change things. Something's wrong. Whereas with Raj Yoga, it's actually I recognize what's right with me, and that's why I'm embarking on this path. Not that something's wrong with me, which I think is usually what happens with law of karma, but something's very right with me, and it's about time I honor that. So that's kind of the feeling that I have as I embark on this path.
Thank you, Sister Janie. It just seems like such a useful topic. Perhaps maybe also the call of the time. But we are running out of time, so we'll have a little reflection.
When it comes to spirituality, self development, self transformation, is not about adding things on, putting things in. It's about taking things away, revealing what has always been there, but hidden underneath. I bring into my mind's eye the image of an old piece of furniture, antique piece of furniture. Could be a chair or a table or a bureau. found at a junk sale, covered with paint. I recognize it. It looks old, hardly useful, but I recognize there's something very valuable there. So I take it home, and with a lot of care, I start to scrape away the first layer of paint, find another layer underneath, and again, very carefully, I scrape that away, letting go, with a lot of care, so many layers, until the original layer is revealed, the original state of that furniture. So royal, so beautiful, so unique. It's always been there. Just taking that time, care, responsibility to remove what is not the real thing. Letting go. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you for joining with us this evening. It's a really powerful topic. I wish we could explore it further. So we do have some upcoming sessions. If you could refresh our memory, Diwali, we still have to post it onto the website.
Sorry, what I do remember, we have 2 public events happening in English leading up to Diwali called The Light Within. They're both at the Central Library in 2 different rooms, so it's best to check our website, frequently check in until it should be posted very soon. One is on October 12th, which I think is a Sunday. October 12th, Sunday, 2 to 3:30 p.m. at the Central Library. And the next one's October 19th, again 2 to 3:30 p.m. at the Central Library. Can't quite remember the room, so do check our website in a day or two. And again, Diwali is coming as well. That's a public program on October 26th, which I believe is also a Sunday, 6 to 8 p.m. at Scarborough Community Hall. Outside that, I think there's the usual drop-ins.
Our usual drop-ins online. We do have evening meditation online, 6:30 to 7:30 every evening. On-site drop-in meditation at the Inner Peace Center on Mondays. I believe it's on Wednesdays in Hindi and Inner Peace Center. Again, we always keep it at 6:30 to 7:30. Thursdays, we have a relatively new session at the Academy, 6:30 to 7 o'clock on Thursday evenings. Once a month. It tends to be the 4th Saturday of the month, but it's always good to check the website. We just got new dates for the Learn About Meditation at the Academy, so we'll be posting those as well, 12:15 to 1:30. So there's lots of opportunities out there, and yes, we're slowly just posting things onto the website. So reach out to us if you have any questions, calgary@ca.brahmakumaris.org. We would love to hear if you have any feedback as well, or topics you want us to share. Thanks for joining. Om Shanti.